Do you still remember that dance? The man with gentle eyes, tousled curls, and a smile that made the whole world want to fall in love all over again. He once stepped into our hearts with a dance, and then quietly disappeared, leaving behind a nameless emptiness. His name was Patrick Swayze. On screen, he was an icon. Off screen, he was a mystery. When the stage lights dimmed, Patrick didn't chase fame. He chose open fields, horses and wind. He chose a life away from the spotlight. But then, illness struck, ruthlessly taking his breath at just 57 years old. The home where he once lived, once loved, now gathers dust among silent hills. What he left behind, his legacy, his memories, even his forgotten assets, are slowly fading into oblivion. Let us open the door to the past once more. To listen. To remember. And if you cherish memories like these, ones slowly being erased by time, subscribe to our channel. Let's hold on to the beautiful things that time tries to take away. Patrick Swayze, he was once a blazing light on the screens of the 1980s. Every dance move left the audience breathless. Every smile melted a million hearts. Dirty Dancing, Ghost, Point Break, films you might have watched with your family on weekend nights. That face was once the very image of masculinity and allure in Hollywood. But what if we told you, most of who he truly was never really seen? Behind the spotlight, Patrick lived a different life. A strong man on screen, but one who sought peace among mountains and stables. He didn't chase attention. He ran from it. Few know that he once wrote a song for his beloved wife, "She's Like the Wind," and kept it hidden for years. He was a dancer, a pilot, a man who mucked horse stalls in the midday sun. Patrick didn't just act, he lived fully in every role he chose. In his final years, the name Patrick Swayze slowly faded from movie posters. But he didn't disappear. He chose to become a real cowboy, living in the vast lands of New Mexico, battling cancer in silence, as if it were his most honest role yet. Patrick Swayze wasn't just an icon. He was a mystery. And today, we'll dig deeper, tracing the path from his abandoned home to faded photographs covered in dust, to understand what really happened to the man who once made the whole world want to dance. Before stepping into the dazzling spotlight, Patrick Swayze was just a Texas boy, raised amidst music and the sound of tap shoes striking wooden floors. His mother, Patsy Swayze, was a ballet teacher, the one who planted the very first seed of artistic passion in Patrick, and the one who placed upon his shoulders quiet, unspoken expectations. Then, one day in 1970, a 14-year-old girl named Lisa walked into his mother's dance class. Patrick was 18 at the time, and had no idea he had just met the person who would stay by his side for the rest of his life. They grew up together, not just in age, but in spirit, in passion, and in a patience that few in show business ever managed to hold on to. In 1975, they got married. No fanfare, no sparkling jewels. Just two souls moving to the same rhythm. For 34 years, Patrick and Lisa journeyed through every high and low, always side by side, like two wings of the same being. They never had children, though they tried. A miscarriage shattered their hearts. But instead of driving them apart, the pain became a deeper bond. Lisa once said, "We didn't have children, but we had each other, and for us, that was enough." They rode horses together, wrote screenplays, flew through the sky, and sat in silence by the fire as night fell. In those ordinary moments, Patrick was no longer a movie star, just a humble, grateful, and deeply human husband. That was the part of his life Hollywood never saw. And it was that very part, the quiet life, that became his hidden source of strength in the final years. When there were no more applause, no more lights, only Lisa, by his bedside, holding his hand in silence. A love that needed no grand gesture. A family that didn't need to be big, only honest. And sometimes, the quietest things are the ones that last the longest. There was a time when you couldn't walk into a living room in America without seeing Patrick Swayze on the screen. He wasn't just an actor, he was a phenomenon. People didn't just watch Patrick perform, they felt him. From the passionate dance steps in Dirty Dancing to the haunting gaze in Ghost, Patrick didn't play a role. He became the role. Dirty Dancing in 1987 wasn't just a romantic film, it was the voice of an entire generation. Johnny Castle, the poor but passionate young man, made millions believe that love means stepping beyond the lines, daring to dance, daring to believe in yourself. And Patrick didn't just do that on screen, he lived it. He redefined what a Hollywood man could be. No need for flashy muscles, just a sincere gaze and movements full of emotion. In Ghost, 1990, he made people cry for a ghost. In Point Break, 1991, he was a criminal, but the kind you wanted to understand, not hate. But Patrick never let fame define him. He didn't crave red carpets or wild parties. When the spotlight dimmed, he retreated to his ranch, where the stables and the dance studio were his private stage. He once said, "I act to live, but I truly live when I dance, or when I work in nature." What made Patrick special was that the more famous he became, the quieter he grew. He didn't seek more. He just wanted enough. No need for another role, just more time with Lisa, with his horse Tammon, with a song echoing through the old rehearsal room at Rancho Bizarro. He never won many major awards. But that didn't matter. Because what he left behind wasn't on a trophy shelf. It was in the hearts of viewers, in the memories of children who once tried to dance like him in their living rooms, in the eyes of the wife who had seen him cry after a scene that cut too deep. Patrick didn't need a stage to shine. Because that light, it had always come from within. Despite his strong appearance and glorious career, Patrick Swayze's life was never an easy performance. In 1982, his father, Jesse Wayne, the man Patrick deeply admired, died suddenly. That loss shattered the emotional foundation on which Patrick stood. He fell into a quiet depression, turning to alcohol to soothe a pain he couldn't name. It was the beginning of a decade-long struggle with addiction, self-destruction, and countless nights lost in darkness. Though he broke free from alcohol in the 90s, the wound never truly healed. And fate would test him once again. On June 1, 2000, Patrick piloted his twin-engine Cessna alone, with only his 2 dogs as companions. Mid-air, the cabin lost pressure, forcing him to make an emergency landing in a residential area of Arizona. The right wing clipped a light pole. But he survived, without a scratch. So did his dogs. The incident sparked media frenzy. Some witnesses claimed he smelled of alcohol. Rumors spread about wine bottles and beer cases stashed in the cargo hold. Old doubts resurfaced, clinging to him as if the past refused to let go. But the National Transportation Safety Board's investigation found no alcohol in his system. Instead, they concluded he may have suffered oxygen deprivation and exposure to toxic fumes in the cockpit, impairing his control. A few years later, in 2006, the same Cessna met trouble again. This time, Lisa was at the controls. One engine failed completely just after takeoff. While many might have panicked, she stayed calm and landed them safely. After that, they retired the plane, closing that chapter for good. And then, the final trial came, as if life still wasn't done testing him. In late 2007, Patrick began experiencing abdominal discomfort. By early the next year, he was diagnosed with advanced-stage pancreatic cancer. The cancer had already spread. There was little hope. But instead of hiding, he faced it. He began treatment at Stanford, participated in experimental drug trials, continued filming, and performed his own stunts in a new TV series. People saw him growing thinner, but still standing tall. Still looking into the camera with the same gaze. He appeared at the Stand Up to Cancer event, not as an actor, but as a patient, a fighter. He spoke of hope, and the dream that one day, cure would no longer be an impossible word. Even as the press continued to speculate about his health, Patrick never pushed back. He just kept fighting in silence. Not for fame. But for one thing only, to live one more day, beside the woman he loved, beside the animals on his ranch, beside his memories, and beside his truest self, the one he spent a lifetime trying to understand and accept. Some people give up. Some run away. But Patrick Swayze, he chose to face it. Quietly. Bravely. And beautifully. On the quiet hills of Silmar, California, there's still a place called Rancho Bizarro. A strange name, just like the man who once lived there. Patrick and Lisa chose it as a reminder: life doesn't have to be perfect, only true to the heart. It was their retreat from the spotlight. And it was where Patrick returned during his final years. The house, a 1940s-style wooden ranch, had a vaulted ceiling of raw timber, a cozy living room, and a deer antler chandelier that hung silently from the high ceiling. Patrick's private dance studio still stands, the place where he once trained for hours every day when he was well. The wide paddocks once held Arabian horses, ducks, even goats, many named after characters from Dirty Dancing. Their life at Rancho Bizarro was its own kind of performance, without an audience, but full of honesty. After Patrick passed away in September 2009, Lisa held on to the home for many years. Every room, every doorway held memories, of his smile, of the sound of his boots returning after a day of riding. But in 2015, Lisa chose to let go. She sold Rancho Bizarro to a charitable organization for nearly $3 million, carrying the memories with her, but leaving the place behind. 8 years later, in 2023, the house reappeared on the market. Listed at $4.5 million, it drew media attention. But what people truly wanted wasn't the price. It was the story. Because after all these years, Rancho Bizarro remains like an old forgotten photograph. Wildflowers grow along the fences. The stables are empty. The studio holds no music. And the chandelier still hangs, silent, as if waiting for a familiar step to return. Elsewhere, in New Mexico, the 20,000-acre ranch once owned by Patrick and Lisa now sits in silence too. No one knows exactly what became of that land. Only that it was the place where they renewed their vows on their 33rd anniversary. The place Patrick called heaven. The place, according to Lisa, where he finally found himself. The legacy Patrick left behind wasn't just in property or possessions. It was in spaces that once breathed with him. In a home that held joy, sorrow, and a love that was quietly, deeply real. But time goes on. People leave. Memories fade. And that house still stands, on a quiet hillside, like a silent witness to a life that once burned brightly. No one steps into the dance studio anymore. No one dusts the saddles. Only the wind remains, and the dusty memories, reminding us that sometimes, the most precious things are the ones we forget. Patrick Swayze never called himself a legend. He didn't chase golden statues or bask in praise. But it was that very simplicity, the way he lived quietly and loved with his whole heart, that made him unforgettable to audiences everywhere. He left behind performances etched deeply into the memory of American cinema. But beyond Dirty Dancing or Ghost, his true legacy was his courage in the face of hardship, his unconditional love for the one partner in his life, and the way he held on to his gentleness, even when the world around him was falling apart. Patrick lived as if every day were a scene that couldn't be res-hot. And when illness came, he didn't retreat. He appeared on television, not to complain, but to inspire. In his tired voice, in those deep eyes, people saw one thing: faith. Faith that love could outlast disease. That kindness could rise above fame. That an artist didn't need a stage to shine. He once spoke of Lisa in a way no one ever forgot: she's not just my wife. She's my partner, my soulmate, my everything. And for those who watched him dance, who heard him sing, who saw him quietly walk away from Hollywood to become his truest self, Patrick left behind something greater than art. He left behind truth. A life that was never perfect, but was genuine to the very end. And that light has never stopped shining. Maybe you once watched Patrick Swayze on a quiet evening with loved ones, the glow of the TV filling the room. Maybe you heard the melody of She's Like the Wind and suddenly remembered a love from long ago. Whether it was a small memory or a fleeting moment, Patrick left a mark on the lives of so many. And now, with the lights dimmed and Rancho Bizarro just a dust-covered house on a hillside, it's you, the ones who loved him, who carry that flame forward. If Patrick was ever a part of your memories, please share them in the comments. A line of remembrance, a farewell, or simply the words, "I still remember." And if stories like this speak to you, please subscribe to the channel, so together, we can preserve the memories time tries to fade. Because sometimes, the things we forget, are the most beautiful of all. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.